Hello, everyone. Welcome to my launch party. I am thrilled to share with you my book, Like a Spark from Fire, Break Free from the Past, Shine Your Brilliance, and Become Your True Self. So I am going to spend some time sharing some stories about the book, share some stories about some readings in the book, and get you excited about what's inside if you don't have a copy yet. And I flagged a couple things to talk to you about, but here's the cover, Like a Spark from Fire. And Rob, my wonderful husband, Robert, he did the foreword. So he did a beautiful job of the foreword. So I wanted to start off today by just reading I think the most important part of this book. And I think what sets it apart with a lot of work in self-development, personal development. For me, it's been life-changing for me to understand this concept. And so hopefully you'll be inspired by it as well. So I'm going to get my glasses on and do some reading. So this is in the introduction. And this section is called You Are Not Broken. This book is not about healing, upgrading your personality, or building up a false persona to influence others. It's about seeing all of who you are, human and divine. This is not therapy. The process in this book is based on Jung's process of individuation, presented in a non-clinical coaching model. You will learn to shift your self-identification from your ego persona, reliant on others' opinions or dependent upon acquiring external comforts, to be fully in your power as the true divine self, so you can feel truly happy, fulfilled, and spiritually connected in life. No matter what happened to you in your life, nothing can break or harm the true essence of you. You don't have to go back and fix the past or rewrite history. You can discover the real you that is beneath the surface, ready to share her gifts and feel fully empowered. Let's draw the curtains and see who you really are. So this concept comes from Eastern philosophy, and in non-dual Eastern philosophy, Advaita Vedanta, they talk about this concept that the self is who we really are, this big self, the big S, not the little ego, not this personality, not this body, not this life, not this history. There's something deeper to us that's more true, the true self. And they state that it can never be harmed. It can never be damaged. It can never be cut. So we have this kind of pure essence, what I call the spark in the book. And we're born with it. It's perfect. It's connected and identical to the divine. So if you could think of your concept of the divine, unlimited, pure potential, you go through life and then we create this, because we're in a body, we create this ego. And the ego actually hides our true nature. It hides our potential. It hides who we really are. And we start believing that we're this limited personality, we're what we look like, what our age is, what our degrees are in, if how much money we're making, if we're in a relationship, if we're not in a relationship, if we have a lot of friends, if we don't have a lot of friends, if we look good in our bodies, if we're thin, if we're heavy, if we're healthy, if we're unhealthy. All these things, these concepts are all of the ego. It's all this persona, this body, this personality, this human expression, but it's not really who we are. And how we know this is that you can really test this for yourself, because how can anything be solid if it's changing all the time? You're always going to age. Maybe you were the prom queen, and at 70 years old, you look different than you were when you were 20. So which one is the real you? You grow and you change. You make mistakes and you learn from them. You learn new things intellectually. You become wiser, older. So who's the real you? Is it the you that was ignorant or the you that was wise? And so anything that changes cannot be real because it's in constant flux. But underneath, in the true essence, our essence, our soul, is unchangeable. The self in us is unchangeable. And that is what basically helps us have this other experience that's other than ourself. And so the journey in this book is really about how do we connect to that, because we don't have direct access to it, because this soul in us is unconscious. All we see is on the surface, where we have our senses and our body and our thinking that gets in the way of us really truly accessing that pure divine potential. We can understand it intellectually, and we may have fleeting spiritual experiences, but how do we really embody it and know it? So when we live our life, we're not held back by the ego's fears. And so Carl Jung created this idea called individuation when he was working with Freud. He disagreed with Freud in a way. Freud thought that the sexual drive was really the way people grow and what drives a human being. And Jung actually thought we are driven by a spiritual nature, our seeking spiritual fulfillment. And so that is really, Jung's contribution to psychology. Until recently, most of Jung's psychology has been taught in a therapy model. And so Rob and I, we created Creative Mind to introduce Jung's theories and Eastern philosophy in a coaching model, which is all about potential, which I believe if you don't, there's a place for therapy, but there's also a place for you to now grow and reach your potential. So the first part of life, Jung said, is about building up this ego, building up this personality, getting the job, finding love, making a mark for yourself, like improving yourself, reading, learning, getting knowledge, making friends, enjoying life, eating delicious food, having that experience in life and building up this ego. And about midlife, around in your 30s, is the time where you say, okay, I did this, but there has to be something more. So the first part of life is typically in pursuit of material, external comforts. And then the second part of life is about returning inward, returning inside to our true nature and seek and find what has already been within us that's been covered up by our earthly experiences. And he called that individuation, where we start to live outside of those old patterns that we created early on and start expressing ourselves and truly have free will. Before individuation, you can do all the manifestation tools you want. You can create and visualize a check in the mail and visualize your true partner. But your conditioning, that ego conditioning, is going to really dictate what your fate is. You're not conscious of a lot of the programming that you received early on and the things that you don't know that are unconscious that are affecting your life. And so what Jung believed is that when you start looking at yourself in a different way, you start questioning what your motivations are for things. You start looking at what he called the shadow. Everything starts to change. And this book really is about, Jung's work is vast. And so I tried to create a book that has something more condensed, more practical for someone new to Jung's work that can really get it on a simple level, but deep. That's kind of what the feedback I've been getting from other people reading it. It's very simple and approachable, but deep. And so the first step in individuation, and once we go through it, is to face our shadow. And the shadow, a lot of people give the shadow a bad rap. They think it's this negative, dark part of us, or our negative thoughts, or our negative beliefs. But the shadow is really the part of us that we're not aware of, and that actually holds us back from really fully having that free will, that choice, free choice in our life. And so we create a shadow every time we decide on our conscious level that we are a certain type of person. So when we identify with a personality trait as us, the shadow is the opposite trait. A very simple exercise would be, think of one thing that if anything, you love what people say about you, that you really love about yourself. Like, I love that I'm so generous, or I love that I'm so smart, or I love that I'm there for people. I'm a good friend. The opposite is in your shadow. And what a lot of people think is that they think they choose to be those things because it makes sense. I want to be a good friend. I want to be nice. I want to be kind. I want to be successful. But we're actually not choosing it out of free will, because what we're doing is we're choosing that so we're not what's in the shadow. So I'm choosing to be good in order not to be bad. I'm choosing to be successful in order not to be a failure. I'm choosing to be in a relationship because I don't want to be alone. And so there's this duality that we're dealing with, and we're not really freely choosing if we're choosing something and propping up this persona and rejecting another part of ourselves. And so the first step is really to look at this shadow side and see that it's not so bad. It's the ego judges it. The way society conditions us is to be a certain way and have certain expectations. But truly, we want to be able to be free. We want to be kind just because we want to be kind. Not we don't want to be kind just so people will like us. We want to be successful, not because we want everyone else to be impressed, but we want to be successful because it's something that we would like to contribute to the world. So there's a lot of things that consciously we think are good ideas and are free choice, but really they're driven because there's something in the shadow that we're pushing away. So let me read another aspect of the book, which I think is really fun, my real fun story. And I tell this story at a couple events, and I just love it because it really is a good metaphor for how we hang on to the past and how difficult it is for us to let go of this ego identity and really step into our power. So it's on page 132 of the book. Letting go of the log. I gotta put my glasses on again. Okay, this is the persona of an older person having to read. One of my favorite stories to share in my workshops is the log story, a good analogy of facing resistance and how to free your mind. I was watching a documentary about a man who had fallen off a cruise ship in the middle of the night. Apparently very common. He was in the dark waters and watching the ship sail away and wondered what his fate would be. He was not in good shape, and treading water was a challenge for him. Then something started coming toward him that looked like a fin on the surface of the water. He braced himself, thinking that he was going to be eaten by a shark, but the object bounced off of him, and he realized it had been a log of a tree. And what he thought was a fin was a branch of the tree. He grasped onto the log in relief. He fell asleep exhausted. The next morning, he awoke to see that there was an island nearby, within swimming distance. He was so excited that he was saved from the dangers of the ocean and swam toward the island with a log in one hand and on the other hand paddling toward the shore. After 20 minutes, he realized that he was not getting any closer. The log was causing him to pull with the current, and the current was pulling him away from the island. If he kept holding the log, it would take him further out to sea. He was faced with a choice: let go of the log and swim to the island and hang on to the log and hope that someone found him floating in the water. His mind wrestled with the choice: known safety of the log or the challenge of having to swim toward the island. He thought he may not be strong enough to make it. Finally, he decided to let go of the log. As he drifted away a few feet, he panicked and went back to the log. Then he saw it was moving him out to sea again, so he let go of it again, but then quickly grabbed it again in panic. He had such a hard time letting go of it. But after a third attempt, he finally let go and started swimming with both arms toward the island. As he approached the island, a helicopter came and rescued him. So all ended well for our log hero. And the story is similar to ours. We are thrown into the ocean of life and find ways to survive, the log. But then we realize that the things, our patterns, that we hold on to take us further away from our goals rather than support them. We can hang on to the patterns and let them take us in a different direction, or we can let go of them and the attachment to the known and swim toward our destiny. We will have resistance letting go of our old self, but ultimately we will reach a point where we have no choice and are forced to change. So that log is really our ego and our patterns and our familiarity and the things we're used to doing things, the way we're used to being. And in the work, really, the toughest part is letting go. And there's resistance to change. It's really hard to see a new possibility when your mind is so enveloped in your old life and your current situation. It's really hard to see what's possible and even imagine. I know some people, I used to do a lot of love coaching, and I would meet people who've been single forever, and they're like, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in love. I said, well, that's really where you have to start. You have to imagine how it would be. You have to open up that possibility. And so when we are trying to change our life, especially when we're approaching the shadow, it's so easy to it just seems so rational to hang on to what we know versus being open to what we don't know. And Jung says that facing your shadow, it takes a lot of moral courage, because we created this persona, this ego persona, based on what we thought was morally correct. Based on what we thought it would help us fit in with the world, based on what we thought people will like and accept. And can you think about your life, a part of your life where you feel, I'm not, like, this is holding me back. It's so exhausting to keep this up, to keep up this act. And, you know, there's those times where I know you see this on Facebook where someone posts something, you're like, I wish I could just respond and be, myself. But no, I'm nice. I'm not going to do that. And how much of our life have we pretended we're okay when we're really not? When we wanted to say something, but we didn't. When we wanted to go for something, we wanted to change our life. We wanted to start a business or change careers, but we're so afraid of failing and what people will think of us. And then even now, if you have been trying to change your life, how much of your day is consumed by what other people think, what are the judgments people will make about you? That's what the shadow is about. It's facing those things, basically not pushing it away, but looking at it and saying, okay, well, what if someone perceived me as mean? It's not going to be the end of the world, because they're seeing through their lens, their mind, they're not really seeing who you really are anyway. So all of us are truly invisible because we're all projecting on each other what we think the other person is. We don't really know that other person. And so to live our life that way is so limiting. And I know for me, it was so limiting. It kept men away, like true love away from my life. It kept money away. I know a lot of people that do this type of work, coaching. There's this thing called the pleasing thing that people do. We want to please our clients. We want to please our patients. If you're a therapist, we want to be, helpful. And then we get attached, though, to their results. We get attached to them getting better, or you get attached to, maybe I better not say this or push them too far because they may get mad. There's elements of that too. So that's really what we're talking about with the shadow. It's about what can I let go of? How can I be free in my life? How can I stand in what I really believe and be authentic in what I want to say, and how do I want to be expressed? How much money I want to make, the type of love I want to have, and take a powerful stand in that. That is really what it's about. It's not about building up another persona and pretending you're more confident or getting rid of negative thoughts, because you're never going to get rid of negative thoughts. I always call this attempting to get rid of your negative thinking is like emptying the ocean with a spoon. The mind is naturally negative. It has a negative bias. So our cognition is always looking for what's wrong all the time. It's just the nature of the mind. If we can understand, oh, that's the nature of the mind, but I am not my mind. My mind is a function of this ego, but I am not my mind. I am the true self. And I think that practice is spiritually is very powerful, but also psychologically. We have to understand a lot of times we understand these beautiful spiritual concepts, but when it comes to everyday life, it's how do I apply this, and how do I work with my insecurities or my fears or emotions? Like, how do I deal with all that as a human being? And that's what this work really does. It helps you balance out, these high concepts of spirituality and our spiritual nature, but also deal with the everyday picadillos that we have to deal with, and the difficult people and the modern world, and all the things that we're experiencing now in the world with the pandemic and politics and social media following us around, all those things that that bug us. And I think that for us really to understand who we are and be able to move in the world with more freedom is really your divine right to live your full potential. So I'm going to read another excerpt of this book here. I was trying to find, I flagged some pages here. And then I'll do a quick meditation too, so stick around. So this is Meet Your Shadow. So in the book, I talk about persona types. And so you could take the persona type test and actually figure out what type you are. It's not really who you are, but it's really your conditioning. So you can, any type of personality test isn't really telling you who you are. It's telling you what your ego's personality is, what your ego's conditioning is. It is not a limiter. It is not a life sentence. So, whatever you take this test or you take some other personality test, no, that's not who you really are. It's just a conditioned pattern, but you can be free of it. So as you reviewed the 4 persona types, you should have been able to identify your default type. With that knowledge, you can now understand the shadow side of your persona and how it unconsciously influences your life. The shadow, in reference to the persona, was coined by Carl Jung and is often misunderstood. Many mistakenly interpret the shadow as being negative because shadow sounds dark and elusive. A lot of people think it's the evil, dark, and negative side of us. The concept is easier to understand if you think of a light shining on a person from the front that casts a shadow. It simply means there's an aspect that is hidden behind our conscious awareness that the light cannot reach. Just as the body is in the way of the light, the ego is in the way of a person seeing what is unconscious. In the shadow is an unlived aspect of yourself, waiting to be part of you again. This is where the spark moments happen. I call it spark moments is when we realize, we have that insight, that spark of remembering who we are. When your inner wisdom peeks into the shadow, you will realize the root of the patterns that have driven your results in life. You bring the light into the darkness, as Jung says. Imagine the persona and shadow are 2 sides of the coin. Think of the heads, the persona, and the tails, shadow. The ego wants the persona to be seen and wants to repress the shadow underneath. You can only see one side, but both sides create the patterns of your life. Most people who start learning about this look at the shadow as representing those aspects of our personality that we find disagreeable, traits that we push away or reject, traits that simply do not serve us as we grow up and developed our persona, the traits that would have been a threat to express in our environment were repressed as we grew up. Most of our wonderful traits, such as expressiveness and creativity, are in the shadow because, for the most part, people are conditioned to be mediocre, to blend in with others, and not stand out. So that is a little preview of the shadow in the book. And it really is that two sides of the coin. You can't see both sides at once. You have to look at one side or the other. And so the ego sets it up in this duality of who you are and who you don't want to be. And we end up kind of pushing that part of who we don't want to be away, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's really there. We're still acting on it. We're acting not to be that when we're acting to be something. So to be nice, we have to also not be mean. When we're being successful, we're acting not to be a failure. And so where's the freedom there? We're still focusing and pushing away an aspect, the other side of the coin. So true freedom, really, we talk about in the book, in the Gita, they talk about non-attachment. And true freedom is to dance in that middle where we're not mean, we're not nice. We're actually acting out of our true nature, our true choice. We're not doing it so people think we're nice, or we're not doing it so people don't think we're mean. We're actually, it's that clarity, it's that beautiful power to not be attached. And that's really where we're truly fully expressed. And that's where like art comes through, writing. If you're a writer, if you're in business, this is where your business starts to take off because you're not trying to impress anyone and you're really aligned with who you are. It's a beautiful process. So I think right now, before we go, I'd love to do a visualization to get you excited. I hope you pick up the book and dig deep into it. There's also a meditation set that comes with the book for $49 if you would like to get that book. Get the book and you'll get information on the meditation set. But in the beginning of the book, I have a creative vision meditation. And it's really a way to explore who you want to become. And a lot of times we think about, oh, I want to find love, I want to be successful, I want to be healthy, but we forget, like, who is that person that has those things? So that's what this visualization is about. So if you would like, if you're not driving in your car listening to this, you can close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, exhaling all tension. And feel a warm light moving from the top of your head down into your body and all the way out your toes. With each breath, you get more relaxed and you count backward from 10. And with each number, say relax. 9, relax. 8, relax. 7, relax. 6, relax. 5, relax. 4, relax. 3, relax. 2, relax. And 1. Imagine you're in a desired experience that matches your highest vision. Picture the scene and feel the emotions of reaching your goal. Let your imagination take you wherever you want to go. Who is the you that is experiencing this new expanded life? How does he or she feel? How does he or she move? How does she or he express themselves. Just explore that for a moment. And when you're ready, take all those good feelings. Know that everything you want is possible. Gently open your eyes and come back to the room. I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to make some comments here. Got some nice comments. I'm going to read some of them. Congratulations. So happy for you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Can't wait to read the book. I've been waiting for this. Love the book. I've done an immense amount of work on the subconscious since you and I worked those years ago. Yeah, I want to imagine that I'll also talk about the unconscious and the subconscious. And my earlier work, I was a hypnotherapist and I did a lot of work on the subconscious. And if we think of the shadow, it's actually deeper in the unconscious. Freud used the word subconscious, and what he really meant was it was just beneath the surface, like a little, like we kind of know it. We kind of know our thoughts, and that kind of we can feel in our body that there's something sensation going on. But there's a deeper level, which is the unconscious, which is that we really don't see at all. Like it's really hard to get to. And that's really where shadow work comes in. For me, working on the subconscious was a really good first step. It helped me build up my ego a little more, helped me be a little more confident. But the shadow work is it's like a freedom that I can't even express that's much deeper. So if you've done that kind of work, if you've read my other book, Let Love In, and you're like, oh yeah, I know that work. This is completely different. This is another level of your growth and expansion. So I invite you to look at, take a peek and check it out. Okay, any more questions before I go? I just really appreciate all of you being here and celebrating with me. I'm thrilled to have this out there after a lot of hard work. It's been 10 years. I wrote Let Love In 10 years ago, and I tried to get a book deal with a regular traditional publisher, talked to my agent, and a lot of what publishers are looking for now, the publishing industry has changed. There's a lot of superficial, like you can read it in a magazine article, basically, books, and it's just flashy, and they just want that quick hit, like a social media soundbite. And she kept saying, your book is too deep, it's too much. And finally I said, well, I want to write the book I want to write. So I self-published. Rob and I started a publishing company, and we just published our own book. And so it's been a journey to go through the traditional route and then now go through doing it ourselves. And there's so much more creative freedom as an indie publisher. And I like to support indie publishers as well. I really would love to encourage you all to write a book. It's really a transformational experience in itself, just to get down on paper your thoughts and feelings, and then also face putting yourself out there like that. And those of you who are reading the book, you'll see I'm very vulnerable. I really shared a lot of deep secrets, not deep, but like kind of things a normal person doesn't share. So I hope that helps you understand that you're not alone in dealing with life, and that it's tough for all of us. Can I ask you how long it took to write the book? I'm thinking of writing one on all the lessons I've learned in my journey to find love. It took me, well, I guess I'd say on and off 2 years. But the final chapters, I'd say about 6 months. What you definitely want to do is you want to hire someone who can help you edit the book, a book development editor. They cost money, but to get a good one, someone who can help you structure the book, and then also a line editor to make sure everything, you're not repeating things, and it makes sense, and you're not using the same word in every sentence. You have a structure to the book, and then a copy editor to make sure your grammars and sentences are all commas and spellings and all that. So it's a lot of that, making sure you have a lot of support. I would love, maybe one day I'll have a book program where we all write books. Another one of my ideas. We have so much going on this year, but maybe in the future. But yeah, it's just finding the right people to support you. You can't do it alone. I had to hire someone to design the book cover. I'm not a graphic designer, and nor do I want to be. And I had to find someone to actually lay out the book for me. They're called book designers, like interior designers for books. Like, the house, they design, and all the little, you could see in the book, there's like a little, you could see that. There's like, she designed those little boxes and little quotes. And so getting that all set up for you. So it is an investment to put the book up front. And what I would love to do, like the really reason to do it also, is to have a marketing plan around how are you going to use this book to build your business? How is this going to help your business? Because book sales, I mean, it's great, but if you sell 1 million books, that's really where you start making a lot of money. But most books don't sell 1 million copies, and so for small publishers, if you want to get your book out there and independent publish, make sure you have a marketing plan and a way to monetize the book, and courses and all those things to go with it. So we're going to be doing a course later this year. That's on the foundations of the book, and have events and things like that. So all works together. And then of course we have our life coach training program, which is, what the concepts in the book. We go deeper into the life coach training, where we go deeper into these concepts and teach a lot of tools to be a coach, to coach this work. So my book has a lot of different ways it can make money besides just the 99 cents on the ebook price, 25 cents a book. You want to make it something that's a part of a bigger plan. Yeah, it's a journey. It's fun. When I first started, left the corporate world, I really knew I wanted to do something different with my life. I was a marketing director for a yoga company. I thought it was okay because I was at least doing something that was connected to personal growth. But really, truly, I wasn't happy. I didn't like working in a cubicle. I saw my friends that were entrepreneurs and thought, I want to do something different. And I was hanging on to the log of my paycheck. But I got laid off, and I knew because I had been looking different things to do with my life, and I knew it was time to make a change. And when I first stepped out as an entrepreneur, I went to a networking event, and one of my friends said, "Oh, I have a business coach." And I said, "Oh, what's a business coach?" She said, "Oh, it's a coach that helps you with your business." And I was like, "Oh, I never heard of it." And this was 20 years ago. And I met her, and she said she helps people, like her goal is to publish a book. And I said, that's what I want. And so that's where the journey began. Right after I became an entrepreneur, I decided I wanted to write a book. And Let Love In is my baby that I came out in 2010, and I left the corporate world in 2003. So it took me a while to get, first of all, when we got the deal in 2008, 5 years to get the deal, it took 2 years with a traditional publisher, like almost 18 months of turnaround and editing and all that to get the book actually on the market. So it's definitely a longer journey going with the traditional publisher. And that's another reason why I did self-publishing as well, because I thought, I want to get this out right away. I don't want to wait till 2024. I want to get it out this year. So you get more in control of that process. And so it's been one of the things I've always wanted to do. I don't know if you know this about me, but I wrote when I was 9 years old. I had an old typewriter that my aunt had given us. And she had these papers she used at work that were kind of recycled. And I would they were all like paperwork on one side and blank on the other. And I would just write on these reusable papers, and I would write stories when I was 9. And so my passion always had been to be a writer. And what a gift that I get to write. I get to work in personal development, which I love, get to share it with amazing people and meet so many amazing people from around the world and travel. I truly love being being a coach, being an entrepreneur, and being able to use all the talents that I have or skills that I have and things I love to do in what I do. So it doesn't feel like work anymore. It doesn't feel like I'm stuck in that cubicle anymore. So if you're in the corporate world or feel like you want it, there's something else for you, I challenge you to just find it. Find what makes you happy. Life is way too short. I think about how I should have started earlier, but there's no other. It is what it is, the way your life plays out. And but don't put it off any longer. There's nothing stopping you, really. There's nothing out there that can stop you. The only person that's stopping you is this little voice in your head, that ego, saying, well, you had never did it before, so it can't be possible. And I hope by reading my book, you'll be inspired to go for what you really want. That's really the theme of the book, is to become your true self. It's written for women, but if you're a man, I'm sure you'll find some. We had a earlier call today with our internal review team. There was a man on it, and he found it fascinating and helpful. So I just think it's a great introduction to this work, and I hope you enjoy it, whether you've been doing this work with me for a long time or you're new to me and Rob and our work. I'm just really excited to share it with you. So I thank you so much for being here, for sharing this moment with me. It's been, such a wonderful, wonderful day so far, and just seeing you all here makes me so happy. Seeing friendly faces and familiar faces and people I haven't seen in a while. And if you're watching the replay, sorry I missed you this morning, and I'll be checking the feed if you have any more questions about something you read in the book and would like to share, or that you read it and you like it, or any questions at all. I'd love to answer them. So take care. Thank you so much for being in my world. You truly make my life fulfilling, and I can't do it without you. So thank you so much. I honor you, and I see you being the best version of yourself too. So take care, and much love. Mwah.